What you're about to see might be the most vicious backstage assault in recent WWE history. Cody Rhodes and Jacob Fatu just crossed a line that can never be uncrossed, and Drew McIntyre's body tells the story better than any words ever could. Before we dive into this absolute carnage, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell because you do not want to miss the hardcore highlights we bring you every single day. The air backstage was already thick with tension. Everyone knew something was brewing. You could feel it in the way the crew members were whispering, and how the superstars were keeping their distance from certain areas. Drew McIntyre had been walking around like a man with a target on his back for weeks, and tonight, the target finally got hit. Hard. Repeatedly. Without mercy. Let me set the scene for you because context matters here. This wasn't some random attack born out of spontaneous anger. This was calculated. This was personal. This was a message written in blood and bruises. Cody Rhodes has been carrying the weight of being the face of WWE, the American Nightmare who dethroned Roman Reigns and ended the Tribal Chief's historic reign. But with that crown comes enemies. Drew McIntyre has made it crystal clear that he believes Cody doesn't deserve the position he's in, that the Scottish Warrior should be the one standing at the top of the mountain. The verbal warfare between these two has been escalating week after week, promo after promo, each one more cutting than the last. Then you add Jacob Fatu to the equation, and everything becomes exponentially more dangerous. The Samoan werewolf isn't just another member of the bloodline, he's a force of nature wrapped in human skin. Since arriving in WWE, Fatu has left a trail of destruction that would make his legendary family proud. He moves with a violence that seems almost poetic, if poetry could break bones and end careers. When Roman Reigns brought him into the fold, everyone knew the landscape was changing, but nobody expected this alliance with Cody Rhodes. Nobody saw this partnership coming, and that's exactly what made tonight's attack so devastating. Drew McIntyre was leaving his locker room. According to witnesses, he was heading toward the gorilla position for what was supposed to be a segment addressing his issues with the current championship picture. He had his gear on, his mind focused on the task ahead. That tunnel vision, that singular focus that makes Drew such a formidable competitor, became his greatest vulnerability. He didn't see them coming. How could he? Cody Rhodes was supposed to be the hero. Jacob Fatu was aligned with forces that Drew had been battling against. Nothing about this made sense until fists started flying and everything made perfect, terrible sense. The first impact came from Fatu. Eyewitnesses say the Samoan werewolf came out of nowhere, launching himself at Drew with a running hip attack that sent the Scottish Warrior crashing into a stack of equipment crates. The sound echoed through the hallway like a gunshot. Before Drew could even process what was happening, before his brain could shift from confusion to combat mode, Cody Rhodes emerged from the shadows. The American Nightmare's face wasn't wearing its usual heroic determination. This was something darker. This was the face of a man who had made a decision that he knew would change everything. What followed wasn't a fight. It was an execution. Drew McIntyre is one of the toughest, most resilient competitors in professional wrestling history. He's survived wars. He's clawed his way back from career-ending injuries and soul-crushing setbacks. But tonight, he wasn't facing one opponent. He was facing two of the most dangerous men in the industry, working in perfect, brutal synchronization. Fatu would hit him with devastating strikes that rattled Drew's bones, and before the Scottish Warrior could recover, Cody would follow up with calculated attacks targeting specific body parts. This wasn't wild brawling. This was systematic dismantling. The production crew scrambled. Some tried to intervene. Security came running. But there's a moment in these situations where trained professionals have to make a split-second decision about whether they're willing to throw themselves into the path of destruction. Most chose self-preservation. Can you blame them? Jacob Fatu threw one security guard into a concrete wall like he weighed nothing. Cody Rhodes, the man who's supposed to represent everything good about professional wrestling, looked at the approaching personnel with eyes that promised equal treatment if they got involved. Drew tried to fight back. Of course he did. The Scottish Warrior isn't built to surrender. There was a moment where he managed to create some separation, where he landed a headbutt on Fatu that would have dropped most men. But Fatu isn't most men. The headbutt seemed to energize him, seemed to flip some primal switch that made him even more aggressive. He responded with a series of strikes that backed Drew against a wall, and then Cody joined in, the two of them taking turns delivering punishment that had veteran wrestlers watching from safe distances looking absolutely horrified. The truly shocking part, the image that's going to be replayed on highlight reels and social media for weeks, came when Cody grabbed a steel chair. Not a folding chair. Not the kind used for spots. This was a legitimate steel chair from one of the production areas, the kind meant for actual sitting, heavy and unforgiving. He looked at it. He looked at Drew, who was barely standing at this point, blood trickling from somewhere above his eye, his breath coming in ragged gasps. And Cody didn't hesitate. He swung the chair with bad intentions, connecting with Drew's back with a sound that made everyone in that hallway wince. But here's where it gets even more twisted. After the chair shot, Cody didn't walk away. He didn't stand over Drew and deliver some victorious promo. Instead, he handed the chair to Fatu. It was a gesture loaded with symbolism, a passing of the torch of violence. Fatu took that chair and delivered his own series of shots, each one more vicious than the last, until the chair was bent and Drew McIntyre was a crumpled heap on the concrete floor. Medical personnel finally rushed in once Cody and Fatu stepped back. The two attackers didn't run. They walked away slowly, deliberately, making sure everyone saw them leave together. Making sure the cameras caught every second. This wasn't about hiding their actions. This was about sending a message so loud that everyone in the locker room heard it. The message was simple: allegiances have shifted, and nobody is safe. The aftermath is still unfolding as we speak. Drew McIntyre was helped onto a stretcher, though reports say he fought against it initially, trying to stand on his own power before his body simply gave out. He's being evaluated for potential injuries including possible broken ribs, a concussion, and various contusions. The medical team is being cautiously optimistic, but everyone knows that the physical damage is only part of the story. The psychological impact of being betrayed, of being beaten down by someone you thought stood for something better, that kind of wound doesn't heal with ice packs and pain medication. Social media has exploded. The WWE universe is divided in ways we haven't seen in years. Some fans are calling for Cody Rhodes to be stripped of everything he's earned, arguing that this attack represents a betrayal of every principle he claimed to stand for. Others are trying to understand the motivation, suggesting there must be more to this story that we don't know yet. And then there's a segment of fans who are absolutely here for villainous Cody Rhodes, who believe that nice guys finishing first doesn't make for compelling television and that this darker path might be exactly what his character needs. The booking implications are staggering. We're potentially looking at a complete reshuffling of the main event scene. Is Cody Rhodes aligning with the Bloodline? Is this a separate partnership with just Jacob Fatu? What does Roman Reigns think about all of this? And what happens when Drew McIntyre recovers? Because we all know he's going to recover, and when he does, the rage and desire for revenge are going to be nuclear. Think about the matches this sets up. Drew McIntyre versus Jacob Fatu is going to be an absolute war, the kind of hard-hitting, brutal encounter that leaves both men changed. Drew versus Cody, if and when it happens, will have layers of emotional complexity that most feuds can only dream of achieving. And if this somehow evolves into a larger faction war, if other wrestlers start choosing sides, we could be looking at a storyline that dominates WWE programming for the next year. But beyond the booking, beyond the storylines and the championship implications, what happened tonight represents something fundamentally unsettling. Professional wrestling, at its core, is about clearly defined roles. We have heroes and villains, faces and heels, and while those lines blur sometimes, we usually understand who we're supposed to cheer for and who we're supposed to boo. Cody Rhodes was supposed to be the hero. He was the guy who came back to WWE to finish his story, to win the championship his father never could, to represent everything good about dedication and perseverance. Watching him participate in a vicious 2-on-1 assault doesn't just shock us, it fundamentally challenges our understanding of who these characters are. The production value of WWE's cameras capturing this moment cannot be understated. Every brutal detail was documented. Every impact, every grimace of pain on Drew's face, every cold expression on Cody's features. This wasn't some grainy surveillance footage leaked after the fact. This was shot like a short film about violence and betrayal. The lighting, the angles, the way the cameras followed the action, it all combined to create something that felt more real and more terrifying than a typical wrestling segment. As we close out this breakdown, one thing is absolutely certain: nothing is going to be the same. The WWE landscape just experienced a seismic shift. Drew McIntyre's quest for redemption and championship glory just took on a whole new dimension of personal vendetta. Cody Rhodes' legacy, everything he built since returning to WWE, is now permanently marked by what happened in that hallway. And Jacob Fatu has announced himself as a legitimate main event force willing to align with anyone to cause maximum damage. The questions are endless. The speculation will dominate every wrestling podcast, every social media thread, every conversation between fans for weeks to come. But the one question that matters most is simple: what happens next? Because Drew McIntyre isn't the type to stay down. He's going to get back up. And when he does, there's going to be hell to pay. This isn't over. This is just beginning. And we're going to be here to bring you every hardcore highlight, every brutal moment, every shocking development as this story unfolds. The war has started, and nobody is walking away unscathed.